Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc. I'm here today with another friend. This has been a repetitive phrase that I've been using. Another friend from Clubhouse. Mike Zeller's in the house today, guys. Mike Zeller, he is a business architect, an entrepreneur mentor who helps professionals find their zone of genius and rewire their subconscious to fuel momentum towards their life's purpose. He has mentored over 200 high-level entrepreneurs from all over the world, helping add tens of millions in revenue to his clients. And he's also an entrepreneur himself. He's founded or partnered in over 20 ventures across multiple industries, including tech, real estate, digital marketing, and more. Collective, his businesses have achieved more than 100 million in sales in the last 10 years. And there's many more things I can get into, but we'll just do that during the interview. Mike, welcome to the What Are You Made Of show.
Mike C, good to see you. It's Mike Z and Mike C today.
Yeah. Your last name is a little easier to pronounce than mine, so that's where the C-Roc comes from.
True.
But man, look, I'm excited to have you here. I love your work. I love what you're doing, and I am on a journey to we're in alignment. There's a lot of synergies there. So I'm excited to interview you today and share with my guests. But we always start this show with the same question. It just makes it easy for me. What are you made of, Mike?
Mostly water, according to according to biologists. But I am made of a lot of valuable lessons, some dumb lessons, and a vision, a desire to unleash people's genius and gifting. I think it's fascinating that in 1968 they did a study and found that 98% of 4 and 5-year-olds scored on the genius level of creativity, but only 2% of adults did. So in other words, 4 and 5-year-olds were more creative than NASA astronauts. So I'm made of the quest. Oftentimes our quest, our burning desires make us. You think of Michael Jordan was made of competition, the quest for competition to be the greatest. So if I look at my quest as this insatiable curiosity of how to unlock human potential, and just this obsession about that. I've read 2,000 books on it, not all in that subject, but spent 1,447 hours with Tony Robbins. Made a lot of business mistakes, went through some rough patches, but I think the core desire hasn't changed.
Man, I love that answer. And I don't know if people know this, but I have to follow you on Tuesdays at 8 a.m. on Breakfast with Champions. And I'm truly amazed, by, the content that you provide. But what a lot of people don't understand is you're obviously a very intelligent person, but a lot of work is going into it. You just mentioned it, a lot of work, and nobody sees that. And that's what this show is all about. It's like, what ingredients have gone into making these folks who they are? Because the only reason people are amazed by others is it's a reflection of themselves, right? They reflecting upon, okay, man, I'm amazed by him because I don't see myself at that point yet, in some areas or other, or all areas. So, but the work that goes into it. And I just did speaking of this, I just did a calculation this week because I was trying to figure out, I listen to Grant Cardone a lot with sales and things. And I was trying to figure out, because he keeps talking about how many free seminars he did and traveling all over the country back in the day. Right. And I'm like, oh man, I got to do that. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I already did that. So I get lost in this thing where I'm like, back to the beginning again sometimes when I'm listening to him. And I did this calculation, and the calculation was I was in in-home sales for 9 years, and I did a calculation on how many presentations, conservatively, because I don't know for sure, how many presentations I've done. And then the number was 4,200 and change.
Wow.
And just like you said, the hours you spent, the books you read, that's what I'm made of, man. And I didn't even think of that before, that part. And I was absolutely blown away by that, which brought confidence more than I have now, confidence to what I'm doing, and just reconfirming what I know. So anyway, so taking that, why did you do all that? Like, why did you get so obsessed with this topic?
I mean, really, it's the drive to make the most out of myself that is the initial precursor, right? And so I've been longing and pursuing a lot of those things because, in high school, I want to be a pro baseball player. I want to play in the major leagues. In college, I wanted to do ministry and start change the future of churches around America. And after I left that, then it was real estate wanted to build this big real estate empire, but then a few years into doing real estate, I was like, I'm made for something else. And I love real estate, appreciate real estate, but I knew that I was made for something different. And I guess it's also like, one of our six core human needs is, according to Tony Robbins, is growth. And growth is like, I would put that as my number one need of like, keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. And it just fuels me. And that, I have an 8-month-old. I don't know if you have kids yet, but man, she is, almost every other day, I feel like she's acting, doing something new, her learning, her curiosity, her hunger. Like, it's more important for a child's survival to learn than it is to play. And when that hit me, as I was reading one of these books on like how to multiply your kid's intelligence, I was like, all right, that's pretty insane. Like, it's more essential for their survival to be learners. And so I think I just, lots of times our parents' generation, for example, most of them kind of just went to, all right, I got this down. I don't need to learn anymore. I'll move on, and just kind of preserve. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
we're changing faster than ever. So it's like the
Uh,
learners grow.
How much do you read in a day on average?
On average,
Time or books or whatever.
I probably read close 45 minutes to an hour.
Pretty much, yeah.
And, not including like website browsing and
Right.
emails and,
But books.
um, yeah, because I usually have one day a week that I do like 2 to 3 hours. Like
Okay.
Saturdays,
Yeah.
I crank
Yeah.
through a little bit more. Sundays, a little bit more. Yeah, but my first seminar I went to, Peter Lowe. I was 19, and it was a Peter Lowe success seminar, and they said, "Hey, the most successful leaders in the world, readers are leaders, and leaders are readers." And I was like, and I was like, you know what? I gotta become a master of certain things. And Brian Tracy said, if you read one book a month in your chosen field, you'll be an expert in 3 months. I mean, 3 years. I was like, well, shoot, I don't want to wait 3 years. I want to read that many books. If it's only 36 books, I'll do it in 1 year. And so
Yep.
in college, I started reading. My goal was to read a book a week in college.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a lot too, man. And it's been really over the last 4 years. So when I turned 41, I started like really pounding the books. I wish I would have did it sooner, but I didn't. But well, I want to dig a little deeper though on the why. Okay. Because you said something about when I talked about your obsession, you just want to get everything out of yourself that you can. But why is that? Where did that come from? In other words, do you
I don't
remember like
really,
the catalyst for that?
I don't really know, but I remember, versus me versus my brother, and it might be an older child syndrome thing too, but then like Michael Jordan was a younger brother. I was always in the basement, throwing the baseball against the wall, trying to like get better. I remember my mom used to pay us to read books when we were kids. And then I kept reading and reading. My brother never read one book
Yeah.
for the payment. And so I think some of it is innate. Like if I look at my disc profile, I'm a high D. So I'm a little bit more dominant, and I think our baby is a high D as well. So I think we're born with, hey, some of us want to lead the charge and innovate and grow and just inspire and drag people with us, and others want to be led. And so I think for me, I had that desire to be great, and it was just activated more and more by watching like guys like Michael Jordan play. I remember playing basketball as a kid, wearing my Air Jordans and like wanting to have that killer instinct to close the game out and things like that.
Yeah. So what were the business mistakes that you said you made? Like, what was one of the ones? Like, do you have a story?
How much time do we got?
Well, let's pick one. Let's pick one.
No, yeah. No. So in 2018, this is probably my best big mistake, I guess. I had a real estate team. We were one of the top real estate teams in Nashville. We were humming. We were just thriving. We literally just set a record, or were the highest performing team in our real estate group in Nashville. And at the award ceremony, my partner kind of lost in school. And because the names accidentally got put in my name, I didn't even care. It was supposed to be in our team's name. And I was over in Europe at the time choosing our wedding venue. When I come back, my team is ready to quit, and they're like, "Hey, we gotta bounce from your. We love you, but can't work with your partner anymore." I didn't want to. No, I didn't want to just leave him high and dry. So I had a conversation with him the next day and was like, "Hey, here's the deal. This is the scenario. They want to continue, but they don't want you to be a part of it." And he said, "Hey, well, what if I just go away for 6 months to a year, and then I come back?" I was like, "All right, that's reasonable." So then I approached the team. They didn't want it. They actually one of the key members resigned 10 minutes after I talked with her about it, and then domino, boom, essentially everyone but two members, and we had 13 team members, resigned. And I was working 5 to 10 hours a week, making a couple $100,000, above, or, that even. And that was my cash cow business, easy cash cow business for me, that I didn't have to do much. And I was just mentoring the agents and mentoring the team. And that was that. My cash cow basically disintegrated 2 months before we got married. And I was like, oh, and I had a wedding in Nashville, wedding reception. I had a big wedding in Florence, Italy. And my other businesses were not nearly as profitable, and they were kind of early stage. My coaching was doing decent, but it was like early stage. I was way undercharging. And and so frankly, it was chaos is basically what ensued for the next couple of months, scrambling to put out fires, hold things together. I also had a renovation flip that ended up in foreclosure. It was the only property I ever lost money on, and I lost $250,000 on it because of the hardened money lender would not extend my term, and forced me into foreclosure. So I ended up, it sold for less than I bought it for, and I had already put 180 to 200,000 in. Plus I had to pay interest and all these other things.
So what was the lesson with the real estate thing, with the company? What was the main lesson you pulled from that?
I pulled, like, man, gotta make those hard decisions. And I didn't protect myself against risk enough. I didn't make, if I look at how they played out, I should have parted ways with that partner earlier. He was a good dude, just had some temper.
Values weren't aligned.
Yeah, temper and anger issues, and he wasn't as complimentary of a partner as, like, I needed him to be an owner operator partner. He's more like star salesman partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already a good salesman. I was cultivating good sales, with the team. And then I just was over leveraged. I didn't have protection against the downfall, and also I didn't have it led to part of what I do with my genius within, like, hey, my zone of genius, I have unique things that I'm really freaking amazing at, but I also suck, like, amazingly as well in certain areas. And I didn't bring on someone that is really good in the areas that I suck. Instead, he's got similar strengths to me.
Right. So what's your zone of genius?
I'm amazing at the vision, the first 80%, guiding the ship at the beginning, getting it moving, galvanizing momentum, architecting the brand identity, the recruiting A players. I suck at the operation as an operating partner, managing the details, the financials, the administrative. I don't want to be finished. The last 20% of any project is the hardest for me. And I just get bored. I'm meant to keep innovating, but if I have to finish out all the details, I'm going to be endlessly frustrated. And so I have to be smart enough to say, hey, I'm amazing over here, but I suck like crazy over here. So let me bring in some people that kick butt over there.
And so that's what led to writing the book. When you started figuring this out, like, when did you decide to write your book?
I was in Bali, 2018. I was mentoring the founders of a viral video company called Goldcast, and I was their head of their VP partnership. And in Bali, I meet this friend, soon to be a mentor, Rajesh Shetty. He's from India, and he'd written 18 books at the time, started like 13 Silicon Valley companies, And within the first 15 minutes of us having a coffee, he's like, Mike, when are you going to write your book? I'm like, I was like, I don't know. He's like, you don't write the book for you, you write it for the people you're meant to serve. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So I planted the seed, but I wasn't ready. I was in the midst of the chaos of a lot of things disintegrating. And
And by the way, that was right around when the real estate thing happened in 18.
yeah, it was
Okay.
like 6 months later,
Okay.
or so, 6 or 7 months later. And then I was like, all right, that's interesting. I knew I was meant to, and I knew even the what helped pull me through those dark hours. I know you've been through some things too, but what pulled me through the darkest moments, basically a 2.5 year process of resetting, was knowing that I had purpose, knowing that there was, my breakdown was going to lead to my breakthrough, my mess was going to lead to my message. And I was like, this is all happening for a reason, and there's going to be some gifts, and this will give my story more realness, more authenticity, more empathy for people who have been through the shit show of life, or had everything kind of pulled out from under them, because it just led to domino effects. I had like 38 people I owed money to, and because of other domino effects with other businesses. I had 6 active businesses at the time, and I had a whole spreadsheet I had to keep track, and then boom, the next 2.5 years I just paid off one by one, and it was brutal though. It was a sucky season.
Damn.
I was newly married too.
And then so you decided to write the book. Did you have an idea what you wanted to write the book about at that point, or?
I ended up writing 2 other books first. They're not out yet. One's called Twice Born: How a Crisis Can Remake You. The second is called Entrepreneur Manifesto. And but I was like, these aren't quite the first right book to launch with. I need to launch with something that is uniquely my core process. And I've been mentoring, like, I'm sure you as a mentor as well, like, you get people coming to you and like, you can't give them the same advice as the person that you just talked to before, because they're different life story, different life experiences, they got different relationship networks, they got different values, different passions, and different talents and weaknesses. So it's like, that's how I started putting together the grid of the 4 main areas. And I was like, all right, so if it's all these main areas, then how do I extract the data so that the patterns pop like popcorn? And if you look at Jim Collins' Good to Great, what's he do to write these books? He gathers all the data, the best companies in the world, and then the patterns or the truths pop eventually. So that's how I thought through my own process, is like, how do I organize my process of helping people find their genius so that patterns pop like popcorn.
And so that is the structure of the book, the finding the pattern. Is that basically what you went with as well? And then who like, when you for your system, your IP, let's call it, your intellectual property, who's poured into that? Tony Robbins, who else?
Tony Robbins, let's see, all those personality tests, like the Myers-Briggs, the Strengths Finder, the Colby Index, the Wealth Dynamics, those are pieces. Say my faith is a piece of that, and my master's is in Christian leadership. So like, looking at, hey, do we each have a unique purpose? Do we each have a call on our life? I believe we do. I believe we're not here by accident. I look at, Tony's the greatest inspirational figure and mentor in my life. Another guy named Erwin McManus, pastor in LA. Then I got my master NLP practitioner license. So like that, what I learned from NLP of helping rewire rapidly people's subconscious, and is certainly a significant piece. I use the 80-20 principle as well. So what's his name that wrote 80-20 principle? Can't remember his name.
I know the principle, but I don't know who his name is.
Yeah. Pareto principle as well.
Yeah. So that's all poured into it. And have you ever read, like, I'm a Christian as well, but like, I've gotten into L. Ron Hubbard, some of L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics and books like that. Have you read any of those, or any other religious mind?
Yeah, I've read a lot of other, faith and all the religions. I was a big student of that in my 20s. I haven't read a whole lot from like L. Ron Hubbard. I've been to the headquarters of Church of Scientology, and I've had friends that were on set with with whatchamacallit, Tom Cruise, that were actors and were on Mission Impossible with him,
Hmm.
and learned enough about that that I didn't want to necessarily be part of that. But there's some good wisdom in, obviously in Scientology, but it's really a personal development organization more than a religion.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And look, when I read some of the books and then I go back to the Bible, for some reason I can understand the Bible better. And I don't know if that's just because I'm in a different time of my life, which I'm sure has something to do with it. But I'm really intensely studying the Bible again. I've read the Bible front to back, studied it, but now I'm like going back at it again, and different time of life, but also understanding of some things that I've learned in those books as well. So I didn't know if you had read some of those or were familiar with those. Um, but yeah, because Grant turned me on to Dianetics, and I was like, I got to see what this guy's talking about. So anyway, the Genius Within. So when you're writing the Genius Within, while you were going through this, because I had this experience with my book, and I want to hear your thoughts. Did you have anything when you're going through it, like, and maybe even like rereading it or editing it and saying, man, this isn't that. Again, I'm not saying your book's not that good, but I had this in mind. I'm like, this isn't that good. Everybody knows this stuff. Is this really like that? I don't know. It's worth writing a book. Did you have that experience at all, or did you know? No, this is stuff is great.
Yeah, I think I had both. I haven't seen anyone have a more complete process ever in creating a roadmap of organizing all the clues about your genius. So I did have that fundamental belief, but I was like, hey, I don't know if I'm the best writer in the world, and this is not that. I know it's not my best book.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a good book, but it's not my best book ever that I'll write. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So talk about the book, like what's in it. Like what's the structure of it? And from start to finish, kind of what do you take people through? What's the journey?
Yeah, and I think it is a big identity shift though when we write our first book. It's like a massive identity shift of like, go, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Do people really like me? Like
Yeah, yeah.
when we're battling through that small-itis element of imposter syndrome. But really, I take people through. The goal is our whole lives are littered with clues. The problem is until now we had no way to organize, to synthesize, to interpret, to distill and extract the guiding principles of our life. And if you look, Steve Jobs said, hey, you can connect the dots by looking backwards. Well, I feel like you can actually connect the next few dots in your future if you've connected the dots from the past. And I think, if I look at, let's go to an end desired state. Stephen Kotler, Flow Research Collective, writes about, hey, when we're in flow state, we're 500% more productive. Well, how do we get into flow state then? Well, reverse engineer that. To get into flow state, one of the prerequisites is you're much more likely, almost twice as likely, to step into flow state if you are operating out of your strengths. So then how do I get clarity on my strengths? Go back to I need to have clarity on my genius, my deepest areas of gifting, the things I'm amazing at, the things I suck at. Socrates said, to know thyself is the beginning of all wisdom. Socrates mentored Plato and Aristotle, who created this vision of the republic, the vision of democracy. So a lot of Western world came from this guy named Socrates. Then you look at King David in Proverbs 16:32. He says, it's better to have self-control than to conquer a city. Wisdom. Then let's flip to another guy in the 80s, this guy D Hawk. Most of us haven't heard of D Hawk, but we've used his products. Visa. He's the creator of Visa, founder of Visa. I talked to him in 2020. He was 98 years old at the time. When he retired and sold his equity in Visa, he started researching the best leaders in the world and writing about the best leaders in the world. And he was writing for Harvard Business Review. What did he find that the best leaders in the world did that ordinary leaders did not do? Best leaders in the world focus more than 50% of their energy over and over and over again, focus more than 50% of their energy on leading themselves. And then we look.
Yep.
They put themselves in exactly the right position. So my quest for myself But for those I love, for my wife, for my daughter, for my friends, for you, for your listeners, for anyone I come in contact with, is if I can give you a little nudge, give you a little bit more clarity to step into your genius, guess what happens? You're going to lead with more confidence. You're going to act more courageously. You're going to have a deeper level of conviction, which also helps you sail through the stormy waters. And you're also going to raise your commitment level to your mission and your purpose because you'll have more clarity. The first domino to fall is clarity. So I can unpack the book a little bit more, but that's the...
Yeah, no, I love it. Clarity. I always talk about that all the time. Is you have to have clarity, man. There's so much chaos and confusion nowadays and so many things coming at us. So I had a question for you on that. Oh, so why do you think it's so difficult for people, or they think it's difficult? Because it's really not, to me, to come up with their purpose or their mission or calling.
I think we've got a mixed bag of trauma. We've got a mixed bag of limiting beliefs, mixed bag of environmental factors. And when you have elements of uncertainty or lack of clarity in your life, guess what happens? You just become indecisive and you waffle a little bit. And when I'm in a season of transition, like a lot of us are in season, the Great Resignation, all these things, COVID, pandemic, blah, 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 blah. The whole world has been in a season of transition. So we all can step into moments of uncertainty and indecisiveness. So, but most of us are also on this hustle and grind mentality versus that book. Napoleon Hill, when he researched and interviewed 500 of the world's most successful people for Think and Grow Rich, he didn't write the title and say, hey, this is Grind and Grow Rich. I haven't seen that book. Or Hustle and Grow Rich, or Work 100 hours and grow rich. Not saying that you can do that and that doesn't help enhance success sometimes, but it was Think and Grow Rich. The key ingredient is the thinking. And George Bernard Shaw talked about, hey, most people don't think their whole life. I make a living by thinking once a week. Like it's hard work to think and reflect and do that self-reflection and assessment. And it's also being honest of, dude, I suck ass at some things, but I'm also a freaking badass at certain things. And owning that's a shift. Like I'm still practicing owning. How do I shift into, like, you know what? I really am one of the best in the world at helping high achievers find their zone of genius. I don't know anyone better.
Yeah, so many people get stuck focusing on what they suck at and then feeling bad about it, that they just forget about the strengths and focusing on those things. I mean, I say everybody. I mean, I've been there too, but now I'm not. Like I know exactly what I'm good at, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't care if somebody says I'm lazy because I'm not going to do something when I delegate to something. I don't give a shit. I know the deal. I'm so confident and certain on what the path I'm on now that, like, and what happens is when you're like that as well, and you figure that out, it elevates everybody just by being in a relative same space as you, but question, 100%. Mike, question. So some people work hard, right? They do work hard and they do achieve things. And sometimes they don't achieve things as they're working hard. And other times it just feels like everything, like it's in flow, right? But everything happens and it's like, you can't lose. Everything you touch turns to gold. And it's like, this isn't even hard, but you're still working hard, really, the reflection, or not the reflection, the view of other people, man, this guy's grinding, but you feel like you're not. You're just like, man. Then there's other times where it's like pulling teeth to get it like an inch moved.
Yeah.
What is that for you? Like, what do you think that is?
Well, I think that brings a great example, like Elon Musk, 2018. He was, by some regards, he was a laughingstock. Some people were like, oh, dude, this dude is way overly ambitious. He's got 3 companies he's trying to grow at the same time, SpaceX, Solar City, Tesla, and they're all on the brink of bankruptcy. Literally all on the brink of bankruptcy at one point. Now he's worth $330 billion, the world's wealthiest man besides Vladimir Putin. And his rubles have gone down. So,
Yep.
Who knows? But so you look, I think in those seasons of just saying, you know what, sometimes we have to grind through it and grit it out, and that determination Sorry, I've got my
I
infant
agree.
in
I
the back.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, she's very
Tell her, tell her,
ecstatic
tell her.
about that.
C-Roc agrees with her.
Yeah, but it's like, man, that and it's also, I think we look at, Sarah Blakely, one of my favorite stories. Her dad used to ask her and her brother every night before they went to bed, at dinner, hey, what did you fail at today? If they hadn't failed anything, he made them go and fail at something. So the mentality of, like, even if I'm grinding through this and it's not working.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's
uh,
okay.
so
By the way, I love kids, and if my listeners don't like kids, they can go listen to a different podcast.
All right. Yeah, she's
No, we're
thank
good.
you,
We're
brother.
good.
Appreciate it. But as she's as she's going through that process of failing forward and moving through those journeys of, like, learning, hey, the growth is in the win is in learning to fail and learning to learn, right? And reframing failure not as failure, but as really learning and growth. So Elon, when he has those failed SpaceX launches, and he thought he was on the last launch, the previous launch, and he got enough money to scrape together to do one more launch. And he finally makes it, gets it off, and successfully off the ground and all that. Well, it was the failures were also life's greatest lessons. And so I think reframing that, and when I'm in the midst of the grinding and things aren't working, then I also want to pause and reflect. How did Einstein solve the theory of relativity? He didn't just grind through it. He went to a different perspective, right? Like, he saw himself riding the wave, a light wave going 180,000 miles per second. And he saw himself watching himself. So he had three different perspectives. One, he's on it, one, he's watching it, and one, he's watching himself watch himself. So sometimes when we can't solve everything with a hammer and nail, if that's what we're used to doing, we got to flip to a new perspective. And I think that's where we go into thinking time. We say, you know what, I'm going to pause working so hard and go for a walk. Why did Steve Jobs love to go for walks? Motion, movement, thinking time.
Yeah. Do you meditate, Mike?
Yeah, I do. Not enough, but I do.
Yeah, I started doing just a 20-minute quiet time and just focus on breathing and not thinking about anything and let my thoughts just pass by. And I mean, coming out of it, it's like, holy cow, how come I didn't do this before? Like, what have I been missing? So no, it's phenomenal. And if you haven't meditated, folks, try it. Even if it's just quiet time, man, just to calm your brain, because creativity's there, man. It's in every one of us. Mike, so what's the vision for the future for you, man?
Currently the driving force, my next step is to build my brand and my public awareness as America's #1 expert at helping high achievers find their deepest area of genius. So that's where I'm going right now. Long term, I'm launching a mobile IV biohacking venture later this spring. Can't wait for that to get off the ground. That's my next big venture. I want to continue write. Like, I'm going to do at least a book a year, if not 2 books a year for the next decade. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
Awesome, man. And so how can my audience best engage with you or find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and all the social media sites at the Mike Zeller, and that's Zeller. So YouTube, TikTok. I don't dance a whole lot on TikTok yet, but I need to figure that one out. Instagram, LinkedIn, etc., Facebook. And then for the book, it's geniuswithinbook.com. Hit the www.geniuswithinbook.com, or you can text Genius U to 474747, Genius U to 474747, and you'll get my 6 steps to finding your genius, and then an option to pick up a free copy of the book. Just covers shipping and handling.
Awesome, guys. Go support Mike Zeller. Actually, just check him out first and then go support him, because he is an awesome dude. He cares. But the thing about it is like, he's really trying to make impact. It's not all about Mike Zeller. And that's what it's, when you impact the planet like he is, we got to support people like this. And so Mike, also on Breakfast with Champions, if you guys are on Clubhouse, he is on Tuesdays at 7 or 7:30. Do you have an hour?
Yeah, I have an hour.
7 a.m. Eastern.
8, yeah.
7 a.m. Eastern for an hour. You can come in and listen to him, and then you can hear me. just fill the airwaves after him. So, no,
You
Mike,
do a good job filling the airwaves.
thanks, man. Thank you for being here, brother. And you guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, the Unstoppable Mike C-Roc. Mike Zeller's obviously unstoppable too. We love to use the word, Mike. We love to use the word here, inexorable. And that fits you perfectly. So thanks for being here. Thanks all of you for your support. Go subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to the What Are You Made Of podcast. If you like to watch these, they're on YouTube as well. You can watch them. And it's under Mike C-Roc, Ciorrocco. Until next time, be unstoppable.